Chapter 4. The Hand Below. Liam spent the next 2 days in a state of paralyzed terror, afraid to sleep, afraid to move, afraid to do anything that might signal his readiness to whatever was stalking him through the walls. The cocooned sparrow hung in his kitchen like a grotesque chandelier, a constant reminder of what awaited him. But hunger was a more immediate enemy than fear. By the third morning, his stomach cramped with emptiness, and the few remaining crackers in his cupboard had gone stale weeks ago. The thought of venturing outside, of leaving the silk-wrapped safety of his basement prison, filled him with dread, but the alternative was slowly starving, while whatever lurked in his walls grew stronger. The bite on his hand had evolved again overnight. What had once been dark veins were now raised, rope-like cords beneath his skin, pulsing with a rhythm that no longer matched his heartbeat. They formed an intricate network across his torso, and when he pressed his fingers to them, he could feel something moving underneath, not blood, but something thicker, more viscous. "You're changing," the voice whispered approvingly. "Becoming what you were always meant to be." Liam ignored it, focusing instead on the mundane task of getting dressed. Clean clothes felt foreign against his skin after days of wearing the same shirt, and he realized with distant surprise that he'd lost weight. His jeans hung loose around his waist, his shirt billowing where it had once fit snugly. The apartment around him had continued its transformation even without his daily cleaning ritual. The webs now formed distinct chambers, creating a labyrinthine network of silk-lined passages that seemed to shift and change when he wasn't looking directly at them. Some areas were so densely woven they blocked out all light, while others formed delicate viewing alcoves, where threads caught and held the dim illumination from his window like captured stars. It was beautiful in a way that made his skin crawl. The front door required careful navigation through what had become a tunnel of silk. The webs didn't impede his movement. If anything, they seemed to part before him, creating a clear path to the exit. As if something wanted him to be able to leave. As if something wanted him to come back. The outside world hit him like a physical blow. Sunlight, real sunlight, seared his eyes after days in the perpetual twilight of his transformed apartment. The noise of traffic, voices, the general cacophony of human existence felt overwhelming after the muffled silence of his silk-wrapped home. "Too bright," the voice complained. "Too loud. Too harsh. You don't belong out here anymore." Liam forced himself to walk the 3 blocks to the corner market, each step feeling like he was moving through thick water. Everything seemed too vivid, too real. The crack in the sidewalk that caught his toe, the homeless man asking for change, the teenager on her phone who nearly walked into him. These people, these normal human interactions, felt like artifacts from another world. Inside the market, the fluorescent lights buzzed like angry insects. Liam grabbed essentials, bread, milk, canned soup, anything that would keep him fed for another few days, and tried to ignore how the other customers seemed to move around him without really seeing him. As if he was becoming transparent, fading from their perception. The clerk at the register was a young woman with tired eyes and purple-streaked hair. She scanned his items mechanically until her gaze fell on his hand. Her routine faltered, eyes widening as she took in the raised, cord-like marks that disappeared beneath his sleeve. "Jesus," she breathed, "what happened to you?" Liam followed her stare to his hand and felt his stomach drop. In the harsh fluorescent light, the changes were impossible to hide. The dark cords beneath his skin pulsed visibly, creating patterns that shifted and writhed like living things. His fingernails had grown longer, more pointed, and his skin had taken on a pale, almost translucent quality. "Bite or bite," he managed the words, feeling foreign in his mouth. The clerk's expression shifted from concern to revulsion. "Dude, you need to see a doctor. Like, immediately, that looks." She trailed off, unable to find words for what she was seeing. "She doesn't understand," the voice soothed. "None of them do. They see change and think only of disease, of damage. They can't appreciate the beauty of becoming something more." Liam paid quickly and fled, the clerk's horrified stare burning between his shoulder blades. By the time he reached his street, his heart was pounding and his vision had started to blur. The sunlight felt like acid on his skin, and every sound seemed amplified to painful levels. "Home," the voice urged. "You need to get home. You need to rest." The entrance to his building had never looked so welcoming. Liam stumbled down the basement stairs, groceries clutched to his chest, desperate to escape the overwhelming assault of the outside world. His door key shook in his hand as he fumbled with the lock. The moment he stepped inside, the relief was overwhelming. The silk-wrapped interior felt like a warm embrace after the harsh reality of the surface world. The dim lighting soothed his burning eyes, and the muffled acoustics calmed his jangled nerves. Better, the voice sighed contentedly. Much better. This is where you belong now. Liam made it halfway to the kitchen before the floor exploded beneath his feet. Wooden planks splintered and scattered as something erupted from the space below. Something pale and impossibly long that moved with liquid grace. Before Liam could process what he was seeing, before he could even scream, the thing wrapped around his ankle with crushing force. A hand, a human hand, but wrong in every conceivable way. The fingers were easily twice normal length, ending in nails that were more like claws. The skin was marble white and felt cold as death against his leg. But most disturbing of all was the desperate way it gripped him. Not violent or predatory, but needy. Possessive, like something trying to keep a beloved pet from running away. No! Liam kicked frantically, trying to break free, but the grip only tightened. More fingers emerged from the hole in the floor, another hand, then another, each one reaching for him with that same desperate hunger. Don't fight, the voice whispered urgently. You're home now. You don't need to struggle anymore. But terror had overridden the soothing numbness that had been building in his system. Liam threw his groceries aside and grabbed the edge of his kitchen counter, pulling against the inexorable force trying to drag him down into whatever space existed beneath his floor. Through the splintered wood, he caught glimpses of movement in the darkness below. Something vast and pale, writhing in the shadows like a massive spider rearranging its web. More hands emerged from the hole, dozens of them, all reaching for him with that same desperate, possessive need. You've always belonged to me, the voice said, and now Liam could hear it wasn't just in his mind anymore. It was coming from below, echoing up through the broken floor in a whisper that sounded like silk being drawn across wood. Why do you keep trying to leave? One of the hands managed to grab his shirt, fingers tangling in the fabric with surprising gentleness. Another wrapped around his wrist, thumbs stroking across the raised cords beneath his skin with something that felt disturbingly like affection. Let me go! Liam screamed, but even as the words left his mouth, he felt his grip on the counter weakening. Not because the hands were pulling harder, but because the fight was leaving him. The terror was fading, being replaced by that familiar numbness, that seductive whisper of surrender. So tired, the voice crooned. You're so tired of fighting, aren't you? So tired of hurting, I can make it stop. I can make it all stop. For a moment, Liam's resistance wavered. The hands holding him weren't trying to hurt him, they were trying to comfort him, to draw him into a place where the pain would finally end, where he wouldn't have to face another day of crushing loneliness, another night haunted by the accident that had stolen everything from him. But then his gaze fell on the cocooned sparrow, still hanging in its web like a grotesque trophy, and survival instinct flared back to life. With a strength born of pure desperation, Liam wrenched himself free. The hands released him so suddenly he stumbled backward into the wall, gasping. Below, something that might have been disappointment ripples through the darkness. You can't run forever, the voice said sadly. This is your home now. I've made it just for you. Everything you need, everything you've been looking for, it's all here, waiting. The hands withdrew slowly, reluctantly disappearing back into the shadows beneath his floor. The broken planks shifted and groaned, but held their new configuration, leaving a gaping wound in his apartment that revealed depths that shouldn't exist. Liam pressed himself against the wall, staring at the hole, waiting for another attack that never came. Instead, there was only patience, the kind of patience that came from knowing that eventually, inevitably, he would have to sleep. And when he did, those gentle, desperate hands would be waiting to welcome him home.